What's going on, Falcon fan? This your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. So today, guys, is Falcon Fan Talk Tuesday. We're gonna talk about this obsession none the Falcon fan base have with the preseason. Man, it's it's like every year the same thing. Every year we have this obsession about the team playing the preseasons, and we're gonna talk about it. And I got my opinion on it, but it don't really matter what my opinion is because end of the day, they ain't playing. So we just need to suck it up. But this is, I mean, it's just like every year the same thing. We hear the same thing. Everybody put their 2 cents in and get all upset about the Atlanta Falcons starters not playing in preseason, and it ain't gonna change. These coaches have their philosophies. Some of the coaches out there old school. You hear reports about Andy Reid gonna let his starters play. We saw last night Zach Taylor let his starters play. Right. We even see Dan Quinn let Jaden Daniels get in one drive and have a successful drive and get him out of the game. But at the end of the day, it's like no right or wrong answer to this. It's preference, man. And bottom line, these guys got to be ready to play week one, regardless, right? They could have like the best preseason ever, but if they're not ready to go week one, when you put the game playing in and going up against a team with unscouted looks, it's not going to matter. So we're definitely going to talk about that. But what I really wanted to talk about today, guys, is my 53-man roster projection. We're going to break it down, give you my thoughts on why I picked the guys I picked and what I was thinking when I did this. And, we'll give a couple honorable mention guys that probably could make the team, just don't know. Because, like I said, it's a number thing. So when we go through this, and I definitely want to hear you guys' input, see how spot on I am. Like I said, last video when we talking about this 53-man roster, it's all about what you can deduce about who's playing and stuff like that. Who they decide to sit out, during these preseason games, and give you an idea where you're looking at, where you could go with this. But at the end of the day, you don't really know, right? And injury, play a factor in that, and guys not getting into games. So we'll talk about that as well. But at the same time, I'm excited about to share my 50-man roster projection with you guys. Let you know. I definitely want to let you guys let me know what y'all think. All right. So with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know I drop another video. Please hit the like buttons. I know you guys out here that talk about. Then please share my video out to YouTube universe so more people can hear me talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So the first thing we'll talk about is the some roster moves the Atlanta Falcons made going into this last preseason game. And of course, they signed Ben DiNucci. This guy got all the hype when he was with the New York Giants and things like that. But Ben DiNucci coming in, he's really coming in because they had to, let Emory Jones go because of the injury that he sustained in the last preseason game. And we already heard they're not playing the other two quarterbacks in the preseason, so they had to have another, body for this last preseason game because you don't want an Eastern Stick playing the whole game. So you'll bring Ben DiNucci in to take some snaps to go out and play in that last preseason game. And you never know, he might just show out, right? Put good film out there for other teams, to come in and scoop him up. So you always take advantage of your opportunities. Ben DiNucci gonna have his opportunity. Also, the Atlanta Falcons decided to go ahead and cut DJ Chark. I just think in his case, he came in camp too late. These guys had put in time, sweat and stuff with the team. Guys like Chris Blair, guys like Casey Washington and things like that, and David Seals. So DJ Chark was on an uphill climb anyway. It was a guy that was contemplating retirement. Before he went out there with Eastern Stick and threw the ball around a little bit, so he decided to come in. But I think the writing was on the wall. Just too many other guys that just put in too much time and knows the offense probably a little bit better than him. And he was probably behind the power curve. So they decided to cut ties with DJ Chark before the last game. And then last but not least, Atlanta Falcons bring in Ronnie Perkins, a guy that was with the Denver Broncos, edge rusher, come in. I really believe that this is another, you know, similar to being DiNucci. They don't want to play some of their edge rushers going into this last preseason game. We know Khalid Kareem was kind of beat up. We know Jalen Walker didn't play, so you don't want to have James Pierce, like he had playing into the fourth quarter because they didn't have enough people suited up. So you bring a guy like Ronnie Perkins in to take some of those snaps off. So that's the reason why I think they brought Ronnie Perkins and Ben DiNucci in just to get through this last preseason game. But like I said, these guys still get opportunity to put stuff out on film, and you never know what's going to happen at the end of the day. So that's what you like to see when you see stuff like that. What's going on, T. Terry? So just let me know what you think about those moves. Just end of the camp moves, trying to get bodies in to play these last preseason games, because like our next topic that we're going to talk about, and this is my comment about the preseason, and get over it, man. They're not playing, right? I'm just like, can we just realize this? Like this back and forth from the fan base talking about preseason. They're not playing, man. Can we get over it? It's every year we have this discussion, and like it's going to change because you fans get upset about it. He has his philosophy. He told us it started last year that he don't really believe playing his starters in preseason, and they're not playing, man. Like we can get it don't matter. It's not like you guys going to stop watching them play, right? It's you're going to watch. You're going to freaking root for the team. If you're a real fan, a fanatic, like myself, right? You're going to watch the team. So it don't really matter if they play or not. So I don't understand why people get so upset every year about this same topic, right? It's no formula, right? It's no guarantee if these guys play in the preseason game, they're going to go out and go to the Super Bowl. It's no guarantee that. There's no guarantee they're going to have a fast start. None of that stuff really matters. What matters is they ready to play in week one, right? Obviously, they was not ready to play. It was a terrible game plan that they came out against Pittsburgh Steelers. It wasn't because they didn't play in preseason. The game plan sucked, right? They did no play action pass. It was just a bad game plan from Zach Robinson and Jimmy Lake coming out the first time, play callers, and they snuck up the joint. It's just what it was, right? So I don't think it had anything to do with preseason, and so it's just the way I feel about it. First thing I want to say is I don't care if they do play. If they play, I'm not saying they should not play. I'm just saying if they play, good, right? We get to see them out there and play. Hopefully they don't get hurt, right? But if they don't play, it ain't no big deal. As long as they're ready for week one. I don't understand why our fan base is so up in arms about this. Every year it's the same thing though. It's weird. It's like just I don't get it. And if anybody can explain to me why you're so passionate about your guys, I mean, if you watched the preseason game last night, and I don't know what Joe Burrow was doing, but he played meaningless football to me. I'm just honest with you. They took his two starting receivers out. He was out there with the second string, running for his life. He took a tough sack, and it was unnecessary, right? He felt like he had to get in rhythm. That's fine, but he's not even getting rhythm with his guys. He's out there with backups. I don't understand why he was out there playing. And some guys need that, right? If he feel like he need to get out there and knock some rust off, whatever, because he ain't played since, that's fine. But the main deal is he did all that, and then what if they lose to the Cleveland Browns on week one? What was all that preseason for? He could have got injured, man, right? The best thing I think when you look at it I'm gonna play devil advocate here, because trying to say he on Raheem Morris side, right? The less hits you can have on your receivers, your running backs, your quarterback in 18-week season, right? The best, right? They come out fresh. You don't want to limp into the season because you've been taking unnecessary hits, man. In practices, they control these practices. These guys don't get hit like that. So the less wear and tear on your body is better for you. So I'm just talking from from the Raheem Morris standpoint. I'm not saying I agree with him. I'm just saying the way he looking at it. The less hits these guys take, it's better for them. You don't want to limp into the season, right? You want to come in and they fresh. These guys gonna be fresh. Fresh they're gonna be the rest of the season going into week 1, right? That's what you want. And if that's what it takes, that's the way his philosophy is. Let's see what happens. If they stank up the joint, right? I still don't think it means that because they didn't play in the preseason. These guys do not scheme in preseason. The defensive looks they get is vanilla. They're not going to show anything. They're not going to show any disguise. They're not doing any of that. No game plans. You just go out and play, right? That's what they're doing in practice. The old saying is you practice like you play anyway. So if you go out and take practice seriously, they have logged in lots of snaps in practice, probably over 2,000, 3,000 snaps in practice, right? You practice how you play. So if they practice seriously, right, they should be ready to go, right? And they limit their guys taking unnecessary hits on stuff that don't count when you got a 18-week season ahead of you. So I feel like that's their philosophy, right or wrong. It don't matter because they ain't playing, so we might as well just get over it in the first place. I had to come out here because the chatter on social media this week about this, because he said he wasn't going to play his guys in preseason. I just thought it got overblown, right? And yes, you can have your opinions, guys. Say what you want to say about it. Feel the way you want to feel. Nobody's telling you to feel what you want to feel. But at the end of the day, it don't matter because they ain't playing them. You can write a petition to Arthur Blank. They ain't going out there, man. They're not playing in the preseason. It's just the bottom line. He ain't playing those guys. So we need to get over it. You're going to still root for him. You know you are. So let's just get over it. Let's just hope these guys be ready. They just better be ready. That's right. That's all we can say. They better be ready for freaking doing for week 1. That's what we hoping, right? But let's do this, man. Let's stop talking about this. Every year it's the same thing, right? I think if he come out and surprise you guys, oh wow, he played. You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand what the fascination of letting these guys play a quarter or a half or something like that, a one series. What's the fascination with it? I just don't get it. It's no game plan. They trying stuff. They actually believe they get to try more stuff in practice, right? In a controlled environment to try to limit the injuries. That's just the way I feel about it. All right. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying he right. I'm not saying you guys are wrong because I don't want nobody coming at me talking about I can feel the way I want to feel. You sure can. But none of that crap gonna matter because they ain't playing them, man. I don't understand it. I think we already knew this. Going into the training camp, we knew that the quarterbacks weren't playing. If the quarterbacks ain't playing, probably offensive line ain't playing. The offensive line ain't playing, probably the receivers not playing. Our receivers not playing, probably the running backs are not playing. So it's just, we got to know this, right? It was smarter of them to get their young guys out there to get a lot of reps, right? Nobody, see, and that's what I don't understand why you guys so upset, because it's not like they didn't play anybody. They played a lot of their young guys because they know they need the reps, right? They feel like their quarterback who's mature, got experience, right? He hopefully he be the franchise. They didn't want to put him out there in harm's way, and they didn't want to put the rest of their guys out there in harm's way because that's going to be their ticket, that offense, right? So the offense pretty much chill, but that defense was out there a lot, right? Besides for a few guys, key guys on defense, but the young guys on defense played a lot. And I don't hear nobody saying that. Well, they played some guys. They did. They played a lot of young guys. So let's get over it, guys. It ain't gonna change your thought process. You can be mad all you want, but end of the day, we just need to go into next season, right? When we start having this conversation again, they ain't playing, and take that realization in, and then you'll be okay. It don't matter, man. They're not playing. All right. That's all I had to say about that. I just really wanted to come on here and talk about it because I just don't understand the fascination about it, the obsession about getting so upset about the starters not playing in preseason. Because I don't know, honestly, I don't know what it tells you, right? the guys that play, the guys that fight for their careers, man, fight for their dreams, right? That's the guys that get out there, the guys that's trying to put stuff on tape to show the team they're on and other teams out there. That's what they're trying to do, right? And we see that. We see guys elevating their stock, getting those opportunities, right? That's what we see, and you love that, right? You find the diamonds in the rough when you don't play your starters, so that's good, man. Let's all come back in and get ready for the season, because that's what we really excited about. What they're gonna do in the regular season, not some meaningless preseason game that don't even count. All right, give me your thoughts. Let me know what you think. But at the end of the day, get over it, guys. They're not playing. All right. So before I get into this, I had 23 offensive players and 27 defensive players, and of course the 3 specialists, right? So that's the breakdown I had. Um, it was tough. It really was tough. Um, just to give you a heads up, guys like D'Angelo Malone, Clark Phillips III, David Seals, Easton Stick. They didn't make my 53-man roster, right? Those guys did not make my 53-man roster. Khalid Kareem did not make my 53-man roster. Hopefully some of these guys could definitely come back and on the practice squad. I think they all would probably come back on the practice squad, but I was trying to pick guys where I that if they cut them, they have a chance to coming back on the practice squad. Some of these guys, like a guy like D'Angelo Malone, I think it's risky because he led the team, especially in tackles last year. Um, I like the versatility that had him inside linebacker and playing on the edge as well. So, but man, the numbers just was hard, and like you could remove some other positions here that I got where you can actually put you know put D'Angelo Malone in. So I'm gonna give you my roster breakdown, and you can tell me, hey, you need to take this guy out and put D'Angelo Malone in that place, or put Khalid Kareem in that place, or put David Seals in that place, right? Um, Clark Phillips III. I think the only reason I didn't have him on here because he got injured, right? And the number didn't add up. So that's where I'm at. I just want to see what you guys think. So here we go. So let's do this, guys. I got only two quarterbacks. So of course Penix and Cousins are my 2 quarterbacks. Like I said, I think Easton Stick's going to make the practice squad, but I thought, just by cutting him, I think he'll be able to clear waivers and they can bring him back on the practice squad. That's the only reason why I didn't put him on 53-man roster. I think he's shown enough in preseason that to earn a 53-man roster spot, but just by the sheer numbers, I decided to cut him and more than likely have him come back on the after clearing waivers on the practice squad. So that's the reason why I decided to cut Easton Stick, but went with 2 quarterbacks. That's what I started to go with, 2 quarterbacks. I don't think this is a surprise to nobody. We all know that's going to be the case, right? Now the reason why you want to bring Easton Stick back on the practice squad, because if something happens and you decide to trade Kirk Cousins, since Easton Stick has been with us since OTAs, training camp, he knows the system. He did have a kind of downward spiral the second game, but I think he's a competent backup to come in for a few games if needed to be. He did that when he's with the Los Angeles Chargers, so bring him back on the practice squad. But right now, I'm going with 2 quarterbacks, and that's Michael Penix Jr. and Kirk Cousins. Definitely want to hear what you guys say about that. All right, let's go to the running back positions. I went with 3 running backs. Of course, I went with Bijan, Algier, and Carter, right? Of course, this really happens. Another injury, right? If you get injured, I thought Carlos Washington is a guy that definitely probably had upper hand, before Carter, did what he did. But I like Carter's running style. I like the way he is in pass pro as well. Guy that, holding on in pass pro because that's important for a young running back. But I decided to keep 3 running backs here, and I thought Nathan Carter did enough to make the roster. So this is where you could actually, put three quarterbacks and 2 running backs, but I decided to go with 3 running backs. And I thought Nathan Carter did enough to make the 53-man roster. I think the other two goes without saying. So we don't have to kind of spend a lot of time on the running backs that I decided to pick here. So so let me know what you guys think about that. But there, like I said, 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, and with 6 wide receivers, right? So 6 wide receivers, of course, Drake, Darnell, Ray, Casey Washington, Cardell Hodge, and Jamal Agnew. Now, this is interesting. Found out yesterday that Jamal Agnew is been dealing with an injury. So don't know if he's gonna be healthy enough to get out there and to make the 53-man roster, right? But he is our, designated returner, right? I mean, this guy has made Pro Bowls turning kicks, so that's why they brought him on the team. Um, so he's my 6 wide receiver. Well, for some reason he cannot make the squad because of health, right? That's when you plug a guy like David Seals in, or even maybe Chris Blair, right? But I think David Seals might have the upper hand, even though Chris Blair has looked good in preseason games. I think they like what they've seen from David Seals so far this season, and the only reason why um, Jamal Agnew is in there because, like I said, he's our returner, man. And I don't know if you don't have him, who would be our returner? I know they had some Natron Brooks, they had some D Offer back there returning kicks, so I'm not sure. Ray McLeod has returned kicks as well. But if Jamal Agnew is not healthy and cannot make the squad, they bring in a guy like David Seals, and they will have to find somebody else to return kicks. So, but those are my 6 receivers. I think all these are self-explanatory. Um, could went for 7 receivers, but I don't think. I think that'd be just too much when you're trying to crunch the numbers up. So right now, I'm looking at these 6 receivers making the 53-man roster. And guys, let me know what you think about that. All right. So we have 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 6 receivers, and 3 tight ends. So of course we got Kyle Pitts, we got Charlie Warner, and we got Tegan Quintiero, right? Um, we got all 3 of those guys. I think Tegan has really looked good in training camps. I mean, not taking anything away from Felipe Franks, but the number games, man. And I think Felipe might be a guy they can bring back on the practice squad, just being honest with you. I think the same thing you say from Tegan as well. So either way they go there, they want to, stick with Felipe Franks. He's been in the league 5 years. I didn't realize he had been in the league that long. But a guy that was playing quarterback and then transitioned to tight end, he has came a long way. He was really good at special teams for the Carolina Panthers last year. So, and those are the kind of guys you're really looking for on the back end of their rosters that can really do well in special teams, be special team aces. That's why I look at a guy like Cardell Hodge make the roster. Like I said, Jamal Agnew, special teams. But Tegan had a good play in the game. He had a forced fumble and the fumble recovery. So, that's good. You have to make plays, splash plays, and things like that. But besides that, his ability to run offense, catch the ball, and block is important as well. And this is some of the things I think he have shown during this training camp. So those are my 3 tight ends: Kyle Pitts, Charlie Warner, and Tegan Quintiero. I'm probably not saying that last name right, but you guys know what I mean. So you got 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 6 receivers, and 3 tight ends. All right, let's go into the trenches. Right, go to the trenches, and I kept 9 offensive linemen. So this is where you could actually take an offensive lineman off, right, and decide to go, add add a fourth tight end maybe, or you want to add an Easton Stick in. So you take an offensive lineman off. But I went with these 9 offensive linemen. All right, of course, our 5 starters: Jake, Chris, Matthew Bergeron, Caleb McGarry, and Ryan Newsel, right? And then I went with my swing tackle, Storm Norton, even though has not been healthy. We haven't seen him out there. So hopefully it's nothing serious, but he was our swing tackle guy who's played, the last couple of seasons in spot minutes. So which is good. Javon Gwynn, a guy that, been here a couple of seasons, that's been in the development program. You can kind of look at him as like the next Ryan Newsel, right? Kyle Hinton, guard. I think he's been, solid for us over the time. We need a guy that being able to fill in and play that role. And then Elijah Wilkinson is a veteran, um, guy that got too many, you know, false starts in the last preseason game, trying to come off the ball early. Didn't realize, he's kind of, felt like he was in, you know, charter waters out there, being a tackle, right? So he was trying to get off early, making sure he don't give up a sack, but it cost us a couple false starts. Being a veteran, he should know better than that. But those are my 9 offensive linemen: Jake Matthews, Chris Lindstrom, Matthew Bergeron, Caleb McGarry, Ryan Newsel, Storm Norton, Javon Gwynn, Kyle Henney, and Elijah Wilkinson. Those are my guys. If you can want to take one of these guys off, you want to go 8 offensive linemen, I understand that. But at the same time, um, you, you know, I just think you need to make sure you're safe with your offensive line, right? Especially that second team has not been looking, consistent enough for us. So let's knock on wood, hope our first 5 don't go down. But there you have the 9 offensive linemen, guys. And with that, that brings me to, like I said, 23 offensive players, right? So, um, 2 quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix, 3 running backs, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Nathan Carter, 6 receivers, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod, Casey Washington, Cardell Hodge, and Jamal Agnew. 3 tight ends, Kyle Pitts, Charlie Warner, and Tegan Q. And then the 9 offensive linemen: Jake Matthews, Matthew Bergeron, Caleb McGarry, Ron Newsel, Storm Norton, Jawan Gwynn, Kyle Hinton, and Elijah Wilkinson. So those are my 23 offensive players, right? Usually you go 25. Could have did that, right? But I went 23 and 27, right? So let's get into our defensive portion of this 53-man roster projection. All right, and we're going to start off with the D line. We just finished with O line. We started D line, right? So I kept 8 defensive linemen. Of course, Zach Robinson, Ruko Roro, David Amanyata, Brendan Dorless, Taquan Graham, Lakel London, Morgan Fox, and Contavious Street. Those are my eight defensive linemen, right? Pretty much, I think that's probably where it's going to go, guys. I really believe I think I might have got this one right. So out of all of the projections that I did so far, I think they're going to keep 8, and I think these are the 8 guys that's going to make the squad. Looking at the roster right now, I think they need all these guys, and I think they're going to keep all of them. Listen to Nate Ali talking about a good solid rotation. I think all these guys will fall up in there. So there you have it. Those are my 8 defensive linemen, and I think I really like those guys. Let's go to the edge rushers. 5 edge rushers. You got Leonard Floyd, James Pierce Jr., Jalen Walker, Armor Ebiketie, and Braylon Trice. Right? Like I said, Khalid Kareem is a guy that I definitely would have thought about adding if I had the space, right? Because I love some of the things he was able to do. But I think this is another solid, guys. I think this is probably spot on. So right now, going defensive line, edge, I think this is where it is, right? I think all these guys have shown enough. They're going to make the squad. And like I said, if you want to take away from another position, on offense, because defense, I think a defense, I stretch it as far as I can go on defense. I'll just be honest with you. But these are my 5 edge rushers, and I like. So for my defensive line and my edge line, I think I'm good right now. This is where it started to get kind of, you know, I don't know, right? And I had 4 inside linebackers: Devon Diablo, Caden Ellis, Troy Anderson, and JD Bertrand. Now, Troy Anderson might start the season on PUP, and if that's the case, they could bring in a guy like Josh Wood. They can bring in, this is where D'Angelo Malone can come in, right? A guy that has the versatility to play special teams, also ability to rush off the edge as well, get after the passer, like some of the things he did, towards the end of the season. So depends on what happens with Troy Anderson here, right? Still being in the PUP, they could actually bring in a guy like D'Angelo Malone, and that would be your 4th guy instead of Troy Anderson. Troy Anderson's not on the team, but he's on the pup list, which you have to wait. I think they said like six weeks. So I'm not 100% sure. So if you start the season on PUP list, you have to wait a while. So that's just interesting to see where they go with inside linebackers. But right now, if Troy Anderson is healthy, he's going to be on the squad. And like I said, those are the 4. So Josh Woods, a guy that deserved to be on this team 100%, but the numbers just don't work. And maybe, just maybe, this guy that they could bring back on the practice squad, I think he might clear waiver. So might be somebody they can bring back on this practice squad. So that's what it is, guys. Let me know what you think about it. It was really iffy up and down about the inside linebacker position. Wasn't sure who I wanted to keep. I know we haven't seen Troy Anderson all off season, so but when healthy, he's still one of the best 4 linebackers on this team. So, and that's why I put him in instead of a guy like Josh Wood or D'Angelo Malone. All right, let's go to our cornerbacks. 6 cornerbacks. Now, this is really interesting, guys. When you look at the cornerback position, despite the fact they brought in CJ Henderson, another guy that you don't know what he looks like. We only seen a couple plays. He had a couple PPUs, the last practice he had. But like I said, some of these guys have banked reps in with this team, and they're gonna get the first nod. So of course, AJ Terrell, Mike Hughes, Natron Brooks. I think Natron Brooks showed enough this offseason to make this team right. So I'm putting Natron Brooks over a guy like Clark Phillips. D. Alford, I mean, he's played well enough to make this roster. Of course, Mike Ford been swapping in with D. Alford, but he's a special team ace, right? This is a guy that has a lot of value on special teams. Him and a guy like Cardell Hodge. So Mike Ford is definitely going to make this roster. And then, of course, Billy Bowman, our draftee from this year. So those are my 6 cornerbacks. Like I said, a guy like Clark Phillips did make it. A guy like Kobe Bryant, another guy that took injuries. I think if you take injuries when you already, on the urge of not making a roster, I don't think that helps your case at all. So that's where we're at. We the 6 cornerbacks that I'm keeping, and this is where you start to make some hard choices, right? Clark Phillips, a guy that they drafted, but I think Natron Brooks played really good. I think he was probably the 3rd best corner of the off season, between Mike Hughes and AJ Terrell. So that's just the way I feel about it. I think Natron Brooks have done enough to make this roster. All right, let's go to our 4 safeties. We don't know we're going to keep 4 safety: Jesse Bates, DeMarco Hellum, Xavier Watts, and Jordan Fuller. I think all those guys are locked to make the team. I don't think there's any surprises going to be there. But there are your 4 safeties: Jesse, DeMarco, Xavier, and Jordan Fuller. And with that, guys, 27 guys on defense. There you have it. That's your 27 guys on defense right there. So you look at the defensive line: Zach Harrison, Luke Rororo, David Amayada, Brendan Dorless, Taquan Graham, Lakel London, Morgan Fox, and Kentavious Street. Your edge is going to be Leonard Floyd, James Pierce Jr., Jalen Walker, Armor Ebiketie, and Braylon Trice. Your four inside linebackers going to be Devon Diablo, Kay Nellis, Troy Anderson, and J.D. Bertrand. Your six cornerbacks, it's going to be A.J. Terrell, Mike Hughes, Natron Brooks, D. Alford, Mike Ford, and Billy Bowman. Those are six cornerbacks, and your four safeties: Jesse Bates, DeMarco Helms, Xavier Watts, and Jordan Fuller. Will bring us to 50 guys, 23 offense, 27 defense, right? And then, of course, your three specialists is Youngway Koo, Bradley Pinion, and Liam Cullo. And they can also bring in Lenny Craig since he's an international player, so he would be a guy that that could stay on this roster that would not count at the 53. And I suspect the Atlanta Falcons will do that. And then that brings you to three bodies. When you talk about the three bodies, that's your 53-man roster, right? So I started off saying that guys that definitely had some consideration, guys like Khalid Kareem, David Steele, D'Angelo Malone, Clark Phillips, Josh Woods, Easton Stick, Felipe Franks, right? Those guys all definitely could make a case to be on this 53-man roster. And, they would move somebody and you'll be okay. Like, I get it. But from this 53-man roster that I came up with, I feel like I think it's fair. I really do. And we just have to see where the Atlanta Falcons thinks fair, right? Now it's not over. A lot of these guys got opportunity to show, put one more game out there. They can go through this week of practice, and then putting something on film again in the game, right? And they could change minds for a lot of people. They definitely could change minds, especially if it's two guys neck and neck, and then somebody go out and make splash plays in this last preseason game, and they overtake one of these guys. You look at a guy like Shannon Sharp tell this story, right? Went down on kickoff and blew somebody up, right? He was a 7th-round pick, and that's how he made the roster, right? Like I said, you got to start special teams, especially the guys on the back end. You heard them talking about David Steele playing some special teams. That's why, because if you're going to be the 5th and 6th receiver, you're not getting in the game a lot. You got to be able to contribute in special teams, right? That's why guys like Mike Ford and Cardell Hodge are so important. That's why D'Angelo Malone definitely could easily get some considerations, and you wouldn't blink an eye if a guy like D'Angelo Malone is back on this roster, right? But there you have it, man. That's my 53-man roster. 23 offensive players, 27 defensive players, and then 3 specialists. Boils down to the 53. I'm curious to see how close I am to this roster projection. Like I said, it's a lot of more guys that I'm pretty sure they're considering bringing back on the practice squad. So they're still going to be part of this team. Just not that, that big cut day where you have to wait a couple of days before you clear waivers so you can start to come back to this roster. So, I mean, this is just how it is. You never know, right? But if you don't clear waivers, that's good for you as well, because that means you put enough out there for another team to say they want you to come in and be part of their 53-man roster. Now, a lot of other guys could also say who they want to be part of another practice squad. So it's no lock that, Atlanta Falcons can bring anybody that they cut back, because the guys might see another opportunity somewhere else. So that's where it is. But, guys, I like it. I really like it a lot. I think if the Atlanta Falcons still utilize this 53-man roster start the season, I think they're got a potential to be a really good team this year, right? Even if they didn't even play in the preseason, I think they got an opportunity to be a really good team this year. So, but let me know what you guys think, right? Where did Ricondo get it wrong? Did he mess up just having two quarterbacks and hoping Easton State can come back on the practice squad? Did Carlos Washington, Clark Phillips, guys like that get, you know, bad chance because they was injured, right? Guy like Jamal Agnew, I thought he just wasn't playing because he wasn't injured, but didn't realize he was actually had sustained an injury. That's why he wasn't out there. So it kind of questioned if he's a lock to make the team. Yes, he's probably the best returner that the Atlanta Falcons have, but if he's not 100%, what does that mean, right? So it's going to be really interesting when we start to look at this 53-man roster. But for the most part, I think it's solid. Do the Atlanta Falcons keep 9 offensive linemen? Maybe not, right? And maybe they decide to keep 7 cornerbacks instead of 9 offensive linemen, right? Or they decide to keep 7 receivers instead of 9 offensive linemen. Or they decide to keep 3 quarterbacks instead of 9 offensive linemen. So you don't know. At the end of the day, you can't move around too much, to where you could find space, because the guys that I did pick, honestly, I felt like they need to be on this roster somewhere, somehow. But there were some guys that I didn't pick probably should be on this roster as well. So that's why you have to look at it. But guys, let me know what you think about my 53-man roster projection. Also, please give your thoughts on the preseason. I'm looking, just not taking it as serious as it should be, and I should be up in arms and upset like you guys, and get all mad. T. Cherry says Dragon should try to, yes, that speed. That's a great point, man. That's a great point. And maybe they have, right? We've been paying a lot of attention to preseason when I've been going out training camp. So that's a good point, right? And if they try him as a returner, right, because he's going to play, he got to play some special teams as well, but they try him as a returner, then you could bring a guy like David Seals in instead of Jamal Agnew. That's a great point. So that's a really, really great point. The one thing about when you're doing the 53-man roster is the fact that when it's hard to pick the 53, that means you got a lot of good depth, right? When you're struggling to try to figure out, who's you're going to leave off and who you're going to pick, and it's a hard choice. That means you got good depth in good spots, right? And you'd be like, man, they should expand this 53-man roster, because they should expand it to maybe 58. I think you do 58, I can get all my other guys in, and then we'll be good and solid. I'll be like, yes, it's a perfect team, right? Without guys that made it at the roster. But I feel like I left some guys out because there's nothing we can do about it. Just like playing the preseason, there's nothing we can do about it. So, guys, that's all I have. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Please give me your thoughts on my 53-man roster projection. And let's get ready for the Dallas Cowboys' last preseason game. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.